to work on my Remote Falcon page. Let's see what we got here. What the heck is a dynamic div? This makes no sense. Well, you can probably guess what today's deep dive video is on. You got it. Viewer page, tags, and containers. So if dealing with HTML and CSS wasn't enough, you also have tags and dynamic container to contend with. So in this video, I'm going to cover each of the tags, what the dynamic containers do, and things to look out for when modifying your viewer page. Now the tags are pretty straightforward and can be seen at the top of the viewer page, describing what each one of them do. Now first up is the playlist tag. This tag is responsible for displaying all the sequences you have synced with Remote Falcon. So then why is it called playlists and not sequences? Well, in the early days of Remote Falcon, you had to sync individual playlists from FPP instead of a single playlist with sequences. So this is just a carryover from that. One day I'll change it, but I need to make sure that it doesn't affect any of the existing viewer pages. The Now Playing tag is used to display what's currently playing in FPP or an Xschedule. This could be a current playing sequence from your normal scheduled show, or it could be a viewer request or a vote. The Next Playlist tag, again, excuse the archaic naming, shows what is playing next. Now this could be the next sequence scheduled to play from your normal scheduled show, or it could be the next request in the queue. Well, it's important to note at this time the Next Playlist tag, is not used in voting mode. The queue size tag is used only in the jukebox mode and indicates how many sequences are currently in the jukebox queue. The queue depth, not to be confused with queue size, displays to your viewer the maximum number of requests that can be queued. This is based on your max jukebox queue depth setting in the control panel. The location code only displays if you have the viewer present check enabled with the location code option turned on. And this will display a text box for the viewer where they enter in the specified location code in order to place a request or make a vote. And finally we have the Jukebox Queue tag. And this tag displays all the sequences that are currently in the jukebox queue. This is all except for the sequence that is up next, which will utilize the Next Playlist tag. Now if a certain element is not displaying properly on your page, it's a good idea to check these tags. They will always be uppercase, underscore separated, and inside 2 curly braces. And when Remote Falcon renders your viewer page, it locates each of these tags and replaces them with the appropriate data. Alright, now it is time to move on to the dynamic containers. And these can be a little bit more confusing and can also lead to a lot of issues on the viewer page if not used correctly. And we'll just cover each of the containers in the order that we see them on the default viewer page. Alright, so the first one up is called After Hours Message. Now notice this is similar to the tags except they're lowercase and they're dash separated, but it's still contained within 2 curly braces. And each container will open with a div. Now for the after hours message, this section only shows when the viewer control toggle is turned off, and is designed to show specific information about when your show actually runs. And when viewer control is turned off, it'll also cause other containers that we'll see in a minute to be hidden. And when viewer controlled is turned on, then this after hours message container will be hidden from your page. And next up, we have the Jukebox Dynamic Container. And anything within the Jukebox Dynamic Container will be displayed when the viewer control is turned on and you are using the Jukebox mode. And you can also see there's more than one Jukebox Dynamic Container. And since they share the same tag, both of these containers will be shown when viewer control is turned on and Jukebox mode is selected. Now notice there are Jukebox specific tags such as the queue size and the Jukebox queue inside of the Jukebox container. Now this is to ensure that they only appear when Jukebox mode is enabled and viewer control is turned on. And next up we have the Playlist Voting Dynamic Container. And as you can probably guess, this is the container that will be shown when viewer control is on but voting mode is enabled. And then finally we have the Location Code Dynamic Container. And this only displays when the location code check is enabled. And as we saw earlier, our location code tag, notice it's inside of the dynamic container, so that field only shows up when the location code is turned on. Now, a very important note on dynamic containers. Do not put a dynamic container inside of another dynamic container. This will cause issues when Remote Falcon tries to locate the containers and determine if they should be visible or hidden. Now, you can use a dynamic container more than once, but never put them inside another dynamic container. Now, I know I sound like a broken record, but do not put dynamic containers inside another dynamic container. And as a little extra bonus, we'll go ahead and talk about these messages. And when a viewer interacts with your page, they're presented with a message to indicate what happened. For example, when a request was successful, or if the jukebox queue is full, or if a certain request has already been made. And there are currently 7 of these messages. Now, I won't cover all the messages in detail because they are pretty straightforward, but an important note here is to not change the ID of the message divs. So Remote Falcon actually uses these IDs to change the display property to determine when a message needs to be displayed to the viewer. And that is all I have today. So if you have any questions or comments, put them below. If you found the video helpful and like to see more, then it would be awesome if you could subscribe. Cheers.